All right, hello, we're here for Thursday Bible study. I'm going to share my screen here. And all right, so we were thinking that we were at the end of 23, but does anybody know the exact verse we were on?
You have nothing on the screen.
We still don't?
No. No.
Is there something else I have to do? I wonder if there's something else I have to be hooked up to. No, he's not.
Seems like there was something in that cabinet that had to be looked at.
Yeah, it seemed like it. Hey, is there a cord that has to go from something in the cabinet to my laptop in order to get it to display? Oh. Hey, Lisa's coming to the rescue. There is something. Figure that out. So before she gets to go, do you know what verse we were on?
I was starting on verse 20.
20 of chapter 23. Okay.
That's the way it says 28.
Say that again.
Well, I have marked that we ended on 28.
On 28. Well, let's start here at 20. Yeah, because we had a do not cook a young goat in its mother's milk, which sounds delicious. So let's just start here, even if we're going back a little bit, just so that we're on
We're starting at 20.
on 20. Yeah, just since you probably all have your Bibles, does somebody just want to read your Bible version, and then Lisa will get this up on the screen. Where? 23, 20. Oh, 23. Okay, that is. Or I'll read. See, I am sending an angel ahead of you to guard you along the way and to bring you to the place I have prepared. Pay attention to him and listen to what he says. Do not rebel against him. He will not forgive your rebellion, since my name is in him. If you listen carefully to what he says and do all that I say, I will be an enemy to your enemies and will oppose those who oppose you. My angel will go ahead of you and bring you into the land of the Amorites, Hittites, Hezatites, Canaanites, Hivites, and Jebusites, and I will wipe them out. Do not bow down before their gods or worship them or follow their practices. You must demolish them and break their sacred stones to pieces. Worship the Lord your God, and this blessing will be on your food and water. I will take away sickness from you, and none will miscarry or be barren in your land. I will give you a full lifespan. I'll just keep going. I will send my terror ahead of you and throw into confusion every nation you encounter. I will make all your enemies turn their backs and run. I will send the hornet ahead of you to drive the Hivites, Canaanites, and Hittites out of your way, but I will not drive them out in a single year, because the land would become desolate and the wild animals too numerous for you. Little by little, I will drive them out before you until you have increased enough to take possession of the land. I will establish your borders from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean Sea, and from the desert to the Euphrates River. I will give into your hands the people who live in the land, and you will drive them out before you. Do not make a covenant with them or with their gods. Do not let them live in your land, or they will cause you to sin against me, because the worship of their gods will certainly be a snare to you.
I have a hard time with all that.
Yeah. Yeah, say more about that, Berta.
I just, I just have a hard time that he's getting rid of something that people.
Yeah, the conquest of the land is
Yeah.
hard, it's hard,
Read.
it is hard to read. Yeah, and especially in our current context, and our background of colonization and doing that, it is hard. How do we deal with
Well,
But we,
we did the same thing, didn't we? Bill?
I think it's mine, the species are somewhat different.
That's true, this is the old covenant, and we have a new covenant. That builds the old covenant, right? Yeah, that's a good point. Sharon,
one time back several years ago, I heard a teaching about that, about the destruction and the theme of what. And when the alcohol is in place, somehow it goes down into the very root of who they are, man, woman, and child, and it has to be flushed out. And that's what God seems to be doing, and so it's ruined. In our world today. Stuff. And so now we get so this whole thing amazing all the time. And here, man. People who live in the land.
I think I have a spot for this.
just push on.
So this was,
I think you used it,
this. I've got it.
but then I'll try to know where the other end is. There may. I don't know.
If we can't get this up on the screen, that's not the end of the world, is it?
No.
You know what, let's just. Not do that. So that if we don't, we can share with our neighbor. So we just won't work, we won't worry about it today.
It's the live stream. Okay.
You know what, the live stream people can look at their Bibles too, right, live stream people? It's camp week today, so we'll just pretend like we're camping here too.
Justin's here. He's gonna, you know.
Oh, he's here.
Oh, he's here still?
Yeah, he does.
Oh. All right. At any rate, so Sharon was saying that one of the ways we can look at this is that the land, and Pastor Bill has mentioned this too, that the people that were inhabiting the land at the time were, you know, they were worshiping the Baals and these violent gods. They were doing child sacrifice. They were doing all these really terrible things. So, for better or worse, this was a replacement for those things. We still have a hard time with our conquest.
One other thing about that, it is the whole, I mean, it was working under the system of laws. I said,
Yeah, that's what Bill was saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, covenants.
We can't go back there and imagine ourselves.
Yeah, unfortunately, people use this as a proof text, but it's okay to do these things. Yeah. Which do
Yes.
yeah, Alvin will see that. That's good.
Sorry, my fault. I borrowed the cord when we were installing it. I didn't put it back right.
Okay. Yeah, but it was just. There's so many moving parts. Yeah.
So this one thing, and I've got it turned.
I don't think that's what it-
Special.
It's still not showing. Is it plugged in?
Oh, yeah, just hit the input button.
Saying you're.
Just, at least,
Hang on.
thank you. Okay, I want you to be quiet.
Today.
Well, if it bothers us, then. Okay. There we go. So, yeah, right? And, sorry, Andrew.
I think one point it's being made in this scripture that I think should be immediately pressing to the current day and should probably be that oftentimes in politics today, you hear people shout being accepting is the way of being, the way of being kind. And here, where he says, drive this different culture out, will disagree with godly ways. This, you should read that to say, sometimes embracing evil is not the path to goodness. Like showing kindness to evil is not the way to approach it.
Yeah,
Sometimes you just got to reject.
yeah. Showing the path. So sometimes kindness isn't just letting anything go. Sometimes kindness isn't just letting anything go. Sometimes you have to take a pull. Yeah, and that's a slippery slope too, because what we think is evil isn't necessarily,
Mhm.
you know what I mean, what other,
Yeah.
so it's just a slippery slope. And
Yeah, you gotta find your wisdom.
it takes a lot of wisdom, right? Well, I think there are two themes here. We keep,
Boom. Working out. Sorry, there it is.
But I think Jesus, would he embrace and accept Satan? Absolutely not.
no. Yeah,
I also think that this is a special time in that it's the establishment of God's people and setting apart to be holy. And so that's another way it's kind of different. Not to discount what Andrew said, but it is different. That different cultures and so forth have been brought into God's family now, whereas they weren't then.
right. I mean, we still have laws, I think we saw them last time, and I know we'll see them coming up about hospitality to foreigners and, but I think what God is really concerned about here is who Israel's gonna worship. And we see throughout the rest of the Hebrew scriptures that they fall prey to the cultures that they do try to assimilate with, or like Babylon, they will start worshiping the local gods, and there's correction to that. So, oh, good. So I think that that's one takeaway, is that God wants them to be sure to worship him and not these gods, right? This is just a hair trigger on this thing. The cord is so heavy, it's like right across my lap, and so anytime I move, it wants to.
We'll just get you a little slack here.
It's not on my lap anymore, so it should be okay. Is it still okay back there?
If it's wiggly, just
Well, it's like that game when we're still barely.
All right, thank you, Justin. I'll see you later.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so have we said enough about this? Oh, Doug, listen,
We notice. At the beginning, it says, see, I am sending an angel ahead of you. That's how.
And then
It says,
you
my
have
angel will go
the-
ahead of you. Land of them. It's saying you go. It says, I will.
so in verse 20,
Or it says you must demolish the sacred stones.
Yeah, people need not to be following that.
Yes. It's established. No. Places of worship.
Okay.
27. Confusion. 31, I will establish your works in the Red Sea to the Mediterranean. Is it telling them? All these acts, saying evil.
Yeah.
And there's this- listen to it.
I will stand.
Well. So it's in any place, verse 20, there's the. And it's talking in there, so it's kind of.
yeah, Doug makes a good point that God kind of paves the way, but he'll require the people, and there are times when the people are gonna drive, the people are the ones that drive the people out, but he makes a point that God's kind of paving the way for this to happen. And then there will be some involvement for Israel. It's not-
This was written from oral tradition. This had already happened when this was written.
That's true, yeah, this had already happened when it was written down. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, what do you think? Should we move on? All right, covenant confirmed. Then the Lord said to Moses, come up to the Lord, you and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel. You are to worship at a distance, but Moses alone is to approach the Lord. The others must not come near, and the people may not come up with them. When Moses went and told the people all of his words and laws, they responded with one voice. Everything the Lord has said, we will do. Then Moses wrote down everything the Lord had said. Remember that everything the Lord has said, we will do.
Yeah.
He got up early the next morning and built an altar at the foot of the mountain and set up 12 stone pillars representing the 12 tribes of Israel. Then he sent young Israelite men, and they offered burnt offerings and sacrificed young bulls as fellowship offerings to the Lord. Moses took half of the blood and put it in bowls, and the other half he splashed against the altar. Then he took the book of the covenant and read it to the people, and they responded, we will do everything the Lord has said. We will obey. Moses then took the blood, sprinkled it on the people, and said, this is the blood of the covenant that the Lord has made with you in accordance with all these words. Moses, Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, and the 70 elders of Israel went up and saw the God of Israel. Under his feet was something like pavement made of lapis lazuli, as bright as the sky. But God did not raise his hand against these leaders of the Israelites. They sought God and they ate and drank. I'll just finish it. The Lord said to Moses, come up to me on the mountain and stay here, and I will give you the tablets of stone with the law and the commandments I have written for their instruction. Then Moses set out with Joshua his aide, and Moses went up on the mountain of God. He said to the elders, Wait here for us until we can come back to you. Aaron and Hur are with you, and anyone involved in a dispute can go to them. When Moses went up on the mountain, the cloud covered it, and the glory of the Lord settled on Mount Sinai. For 6 days, the cloud covered the mountain, and on the 7th day, the Lord called to Moses from within the cloud. To the Israelites, the glory of the God looked like a consuming fire on top of the mountain. Then Moses entered the cloud as he went up on the mountain, and he stayed on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. Okay, so what do you make of this, that these people were able to see God and live? I've missed that. I didn't know that there were people that saw God and lived. Yeah,
Everybody else.
no, yeah. I mean, Moses at one point could see the backside of God, right? God covered him with his hands, because even then he said, you won't be able to live if you see me. But these 4 people get to, yeah, Moses and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and 70. And they all saw God. And they saw under his feet was something like a pavement made of lapis lazuli. As bright as blue sky. You all know what lapis is like, right? That really bright.
Mine says sapphire.
Yours says sapphire.
Sapphire,
Yeah.
sapphire, clear as the sky.
Yeah,
Lapis.
yeah, bright. Yeah, lapis is beautiful. It's that really bright, like between royal and navy, and it's got gold flecks in it. Yeah,
Jim, my footnote says, but not in his full glory. Fullness of glory. And then it references chapter 33, verse 20, which says, but he said, you cannot see my face, for no one can see me and live. So then it maybe like the cloud or something.
yeah. Well, it's a pretty clear vision. It seems like if they can see his feet and that he's on, they can see what he's standing on.
Yeah.
But he didn't raise his hand against. I wonder why it was important for him to reveal himself to them. I wonder why it was important for them to actually see him. Because his voice and before his voice and his cloud and his, they knew for sure that God was there. So this is interesting.
He's still going to go through some hard times. Need the assurance.
Maybe this was the assurance that this was really God, and especially if they were going to be going against the local gods. He had to make a clear distinction between him and the local gods that they were going to be driving out.
Maybe the fact that Moses has already been, and he can't just stand alone. He's going to be supported by people directly. See, many times as we get into conflict, that just happens if you're trying to set up a new organization. We need that support.
Yeah. Let me see if Bethlehem says anything interesting about this.
That purpose that you talked about in 33:20, that, but he said, you cannot see my face. No one see me, and we saw it.
Okay, so it doesn't say that they saw his face, they could see his feet.
Yeah.
And my study Bible also cross-references Genesis 16:13. Where Hagar is saying that she says, I have now been the one who sees me. But the note on that says that like whatever the word is, at that point indicates it's the back of the word.
Yeah,
So maybe.
so this is what, Alter says, this is that Hebrew scholar that I think is just so brilliant. He says, the boldness with which this immediate vision is stated is startling, especially against biblical background in which humans repeatedly fear that they cannot see God and live. Such collective vision is reserved for this unique event, a symptom of how shocking this frank anthropomorphism is somebody else's Aramaic translation that says, and they saw their sacrifices that had been accepted favorably as though they had eaten and drunk. Mere flesh and blood cannot long sustain the vision of God, and so the visual focus immediately slides down to the celestial brilliance beneath God's feet. Even for this zone touched by the divine, direct linguistic reference is not possible. And so the writer uses a double thing, like a fashioning of, like the very heavens. Many scholars think that the Hebrew word here they're talking about the lapis now. Many scholars think that the Hebrew refers to lapis lazuli. If the Hebrew term is actually talking of sapphire, the writer clearly has in mind the blue sapphire. That's just an interesting point. So that's kind of cool when he says, mere flesh and blood cannot long sustain the vision of God, and so the visual focus immediately slides down to the celestial realms beneath God's feet.
Are you talking about?
Andrew.
I wouldn't presume to speak for the reasonings of the Almighty. However, I think maybe, just to think about it, I think maybe part of why there was this direct encounter was because in the presence of Shabal's God and people, where people might say, oh, this God did this, this God did that. Maybe God would choose not to go through an intermediate and instead say, okay, for the significance of my commandments, here I am handing them directly command. So that it cannot be denied.
Yeah, that's a good point. And Moses will go up there and get the tablets. But these people are sort of a witness to back up Moses's experience, I guess, right? Is that kind of what you're saying? And
Yeah.
And again, God's concerns, who are they going to worship? And that's his concern. Well, really, it's his concern through both the scriptures, the Hebrew scriptures and the New Testament, is who are they going to worship, right? Yeah, thank you. All right, well, what do you think? Have we done enough on it? Did you ask?
Well, I was just thinking of these 40 days and 40 days, 40 nights.
Yeah.
Often scripture,
Mhm.
time in the wilderness.
Time in the wilderness, Jesus, temptation.
And waiting.
Yeah,
And the fact that the 10 Commandments are still so vital in our world today. I mean, they just put them
in the school. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the 40, so Noah's Ark, we've got the 400 years of time in Egypt. We've got the 40 years of wandering. We've got the 40 days of Jesus' temptation and 40 days here.
How long was the captivity?
That is a good question. Does someone want to Google that real quick? I don't know the answer. 70 years.
They say the flood, what's the flood?
What was 40 days ago? 40 days.
40 is just one of their magic numbers, like 7 or 12.
Yeah, it's
It's just a place.
yeah. There's some fullness about it. Some kind of fullness about it. Okay. Well, let's move on to 25. And boy, we're gonna scoot through this. Oh, this will be interesting. This is offerings for the tabernacle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is where God gives him the tablet of stone.
yeah,
On the commands. I written part of the instruction. I just read this thing.
he's gonna, he is going to,
Because before, he only spoke. So now I'm thinking that he's gonna write them down.
yeah. The glory of the Lord dwelt on Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it for 6 days. And on the seventh, he called Moses out of the midst. Moses entered the cloud and went up. Where did it say before that? I missed
It
it.
says it is, 12.
12. The Lord said to Moses, come up to me on the mountain and wait there, that I might give you the tablets of stone with the law and the commandments which I have written for their instruction. Yeah, so they don't have it yet. That's what Moses is going to do while he's up there. And doesn't he, I think we'll read this, but doesn't he come down with his countenance transfer? He's so, in fact, his countenance is so brilliant. And he has to put a shroud over it, right? We'll get to that.
Jim, I noticed here that the people who went out there with Moses are different. The very first one says Moses and Aaron and Nadab and others. But still, when Moses goes up to the mountain to collect the Ten Commandments, he goes with Joshua. And Moses said, tell the elders to stay there with Aaron and her.
That is interesting. Well, so what do you suppose that is? What's Joshua gonna do?
You put the battle of Jericho.
Well, it's Moses gonna be able to get the people to the promised land. That's what Pastor Bill always says.
No, I'm sorry.
Does Moses take the people to the promised land?
No.
Who does?
Joshua.
Joshua does. Yeah. So maybe this is a little foretaste of Joshua needing to meet God and needing to see the law. Because he's the one that's actually going to finish what Moses starts.
Okay.
Thanks for pointing that out. I didn't catch that either. Okay, so the Lord said to Moses, this is chapter 25 now, tell the Israelites to bring me an offering. You are to receive the offering for me from everyone whose hearts prompts them to give. These are the offerings that you are to receive from them: gold, silver, and bronze, blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, and fine linen, goat hair, ram skins dyed red, and another type of durable liquor, acacia wood, olive oil for the light, spices for the anointing oil and for the fragrant incense, and onyx stones and other gems to be mounted on the ephod and the breastplate. Then make them a sanctuary for me, and I will dwell among them. Make this tabernacle and all its furnishings exactly like the pattern I will show you. Do you know what the ephod and the breastplate are? So it's the priest has this breastplate that's got different stones in it. And I can't remember exactly what the ephod is, but that's what I think the ephod's part of that breast piece.
They're the type of shoulder guard. In certain respects, resembling a vest.
Yeah, okay, let me come out and I will show you. I'll show you what that looks like if I can get to.
You know what the names of the all these buildings and it's like, how many was that? Brilliant.
Make decisions.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Okay, here we go. Okay. So here's the breastplate right here. And these are the seer stones, these Urim and Thummim. And this is the ephod right here. So it's a girdle.
We have a lot of Bible passages where it says gird up. Like,
Gird up
Yeah.
the loins. This is interesting that this is a, this is a pretty fancy outfit for people that are living in the wilderness. You know,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, here they are in the wilderness.
it's a priest, yeah, this is what a priest is supposed to
Yeah, you came with it.
Yeah, well, remember they took all that stuff from Egypt.
That's right.
And so they had these resources, and then now that they're coming to this land, there's probably resources and stuff. So, yeah, interesting.
Kim, do you know anything about the woman in the birth?
Yeah, those are seer stones.
And so. And the birth.
Yeah, Urim and Thummim.
That's.
Yeah, yeah, those are these stones that are in this breastplate.
That must have been really heavy.
Yeah, it must have been. Yeah, so we can read, in Exodus 28, we can read about, do you want to skip up to there and read what those are? Let's just do that really quick. 28. You shall make a plate of pure gold and engrave on it like the engraving of a signet, holy to the Lord, and you shall fasten it on the turban by a cord of blue. It shall be in front of the turban, and it shall be on Aaron's forehead, and Aaron shall bear my guilt from the holy things that the people of Israel consecrate as their holy gifts. It shall regularly be on his forehead, that it may be accepted before the Lord. So where does that say anything about the Exodus 28:30? Did I read the right thing? Yeah. Oh, 30, sorry, wrong spot. Here it is, okay. You shall make 2 rings of gold and put them at 2 ends of the breastpiece on its inside edge right next to the ephod. And you shall make 2 rings of gold and attach them in front to the lower part of the 2 shoulder pieces of the ephod at its seam above, skillfully woven on the band of the ephod. And they shall bind the breastpiece by its rings to the rings of the ephod with a lace of blue, so that it might lie, blah, 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 so it doesn't come loose. So Aaron shall bear the names of the sons of Israel in the breastpiece. And in the breastpiece of judgment, you shall put the Urim and the Thummim, and they shall be on Aaron's heart when he goes in before the Lord. Thus Aaron can bear the judgment of the people of Israel on his heart before the Lord regularly. So my note says, their function is not fully explained. From several contexts where they are referred to in the Old Testament, it appears that the Urim and the Thummim, whatever they were used in seeking the Lord's decision on particular matters. That's why I was calling them the seer stones. So they use those to, yeah.
I read a little bit about them just now. I guess those 2 stones, one is black and one is white. And they symbolize, like, for signs, they represent yes or no.
Oh, interesting. Oh, interesting. I have a little trivia too for you, because I grew up in Salt Lake City, but this is how Joseph Smith translated the Book of Mormon, translated the golden plates. Was he had the Urim and the Thummim, and he put them in a hat, and he held his face down into the hat, and then it showed them what the words of the Book of Mormon should say. Oh, so there you go.
And where did he get the Urim and the Thummim?
The same place he got the golden plates from. But
Kim, did I understand you to say all these jewels that they're referring to here? Because I'm wondering where they come from. But these then came from the Egyptians when they left.
I would have to assume that, because do you remember like early on, right before they were leaving,
Yeah,
God told them to
take.
plunder, he uses that word, plunder the Egyptians.
Yeah,
And then now they, we heard of this first conquest going into this land. And so I imagine too that these people that they've conquested would have resources as well. So I think just along the way, they must be,
it just always amazed me, the jewels and all that they talked about back then. I wonder, well, we think of them as having to mine these things, and they're not in every country, the world. So like, where do they come from? So maybe bringing them from Egypt, because they were in Egypt for so long.
yeah. Well, and when we read more about the how we're supposed to furnish the tabernacle.
Yeah.
They're gonna use a lot of precious stones, a lot of wood, so let's get in and see some of these things. Well, and like spices for anointing and fragrant incense and olive oil. There's probably not a lot of olive oil in the wilderness, I would think. And the dyes for these yarns, I mean, purple, blue, and scarlet dyes were pretty rare, weren't they? Those are
They
colors, white spins.
There were natural dyes, tell them here, where they came from or what they used.
Yeah, but I think those are the colors that were more rare, right? Scarlet and purple, yeah. So those are colors of royalty. So they're getting these resources from somewhere.
Well, when they left Egypt, they
Plundered them.
and everything.
Yeah, they did. Well, and they've got these, so all the gold, silver, bronze, and the stones, if they are destroying idols, maybe they're melting those down.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, have them make a sanctuary for me, and I will dwell in them and make this tabernacle and all its furnishings exactly like
Or are you?
8, and exactly like the pattern that I showed you. So where has God been dwelling up to this point?
In the cloud.
He's been dwelling in the cloud. He followed them. He led them in the pillar of fire and pillar of smoke. And he's been in the cloud on Mount Sinai. And so once they build this sanctuary for him, then he's going to dwell among them, right? So have them make an ark of acacia wood, 2.5 cubits long, 1.5 cubits wide, and 1.5 cubits high. Overlay it with pure gold, both inside and out, and make a gold molding around it. Cast 4 gold rings for it, and fasten them to its 4 feet, with 2 rings on one side and 2 rings on the other. Then make poles of acacia wood and overlay them with gold. Insert the poles into the ring on the sides of the ark to carry it. The poles are to remain in the rings of the ark. They are not to be removed. Then put in the ark the tablets of the covenant law, which I will give you. Make an atonement cover. And after we look at this, I'll pull up a picture of this so that you can see what it looks like. Make an atonement cover of pure gold, 2.5 cubits long and 1.5 cubits wide, and make 2 cherubim out of hammered gold at the ends of the cover. Make 1 cherub on one side and the second cherub on the other, and make the cherubim of one piece with the cover at the 2 ends. The cherubim are to have their wings spread upward, overshadowing the cover with them. The cherubim are to face each other, looking toward the cover. Place the cover on top of the ark and put in the ark the tablets of the covenant law that I will give you. There, above the cover, between the 2 cherubim that are over the ark of the covenant law, I will meet with you and give you all the commands for the Israelites. So let's look at this. Yeah, well, we're gonna get into this because we're gonna see this in the New Testament. Do you remember where? Okay. So, ark.
Well, they staying in one place during all this time. And the vacation poles you know, to be moved. But, I think a lot of passion to all this.
Yeah, I would think so too.
And especially now, we were talking earlier about, testimony or oral tradition and so on. Just like everything else, it's a lot to remember. And what's, can't you see two engineers?
That's right, yeah. Well, it'd take a long time just to write it down, just to carve it in the brush, you know? Yeah. Yeah,
God is seeing if they can follow simple instructions.
they're seeing if they can follow simple
And
instructions.
these are all team building. exercises.
They are. Team building exercises, that's right. That's right.
First,
So this is what the Ark of the Covenant looks like. So these are the two cherubs with their wings. What are some of the other features? The place for the pole. So they would put the pole through there, and then 4 people would carry it on their shoulders. So this top here is it's in her scriptures it's called the mercy seat. The Hebrew word is copper. Do you remember that? Pastor Bill has taught us that a few times. Copper is mercy seat. And if you recall, is it in Matthew? Which gospel is it? Maybe it's John. That when, let's see. No, let's see, it's Matthew.
finding the tools to make.
Where are they finding the tools to make this? Yeah.
You overtook all these cities, so they just kept. They needed, and they carried it. With them. Yeah.
I meant to look this up ahead of time.
We didn't have any questions. Any questions? People. Yeah.
Where is
Is our mercy seat because of his death on the cross.
Jesus is our mercy seat, yeah. That's good.
325.
Okay, here we go. Well, I'm not finding exactly what, I'm just looking too fast, but when they go to the tomb and the stones roll back and they see angels there sitting on either side of the table where he lay, right? And so the mercy seat, let's read a little bit. Mercy seat here. It's also can be translated atonement cover. So this is the place where God told Moses that it'll be the place where he would communicate with Moses, passing on his laws for Israel. This was also where the atoning, this is where it's important for Jesus. This is also a place where the atoning sacrifice was offered. And in the description of that sacrifice, we will find it was where God lived, at least symbolically. The mercy seat represented God's presence among his people. So, so that's the, when we call it the mercy seat, the atonement cover. This was where they would make those blood sacrifices in the tabernacle, was on this cover. And so if Jesus is the new mercy seat, he is the place where that sacrifice is made, and it's made with his body. right? So he is the last blood sacrifice. He fulfills that sacrifice. Which just, this was actually one of the things that made me, I think it kind of made me believe again. You know, when I got this connection between these Hebrew scriptures and the New Testament and understanding how Jesus fulfills this, you know, how he fulfills it. Yeah, I mean, this just gives me chill. Honestly, I don't know, what does it, I mean, does it hit you the same way or? No. You're not getting it? What about it? Because I just think this is so important to me.
I just,
Okay, well, so this is the area, this is the altar basically, where they're performing the sacrifices in the temple.
I know that, but we're not getting all.
Oh, we're getting it. Yeah, well, sometimes you have to suspend your disbelief. That's all I can say. I mean, they might have brought it with them from Egypt. We know they plundered Egypt. We know they're plundering these, you know, they're taking these people out of their cities and they've got resources. So I'm just assuming that's where they're getting their stuff from.
Yeah, how many people came now?
There's a number, does anybody remember? It's like 400,000 or something. It can't be that many. It's hundreds of thousands of people in the word, but there's some. I don't know if it can really be that many people or not, or if it's just a really large number of people. You know how sometimes they use big numbers and it just means a really large number of people.
Well, that large number, even if it's 200. That would be plenty of people to go in and radiate and work.
That's right.
Well,
So. Can't imagine the volume and where it got period. Yeah.
We don't know those details, but we know, we do have that scripture that says they plundered the Egyptians. Yeah. Yeah.
More guesswork with thoughts of God. So Caleb brings, wouldn't it be interesting? Besides, decorated with the two seraphim necklaces, so that you could also put the two angels on either side of the cave for when Jesus appeared.
It is not a coincidence. It is not. I mean, especially if Paul then directly says Jesus is the mercy seat. You know, I don't think it's a coincidence. So I don't think you're stretching it too far to get inside the mind of God.
The Exodus 12:37, the Israelites set out on foot from Ramesses for Sukkot. There were about 600,000 men, not counting women.
600,000 men, not counting women and children. So not counting women and children. So you double that with women and then.
Over a million people.
Yeah. As high as 2 million people, it says. So now whether that can really be or not, I don't know. But they could carry a lot of resources.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He's sucking up a lot of water too.
Taking a lot of water and a lot of manna. And
Well, God says Egypt would never rise again.
down to nothing. Yeah. All right. So now we move to the table. So make a table of acacia wood. Can somebody look up acacia wood and just find out if there's any special characteristics or why they might have chosen acacia wood? Make a table of acacia wood, 2 cubits long, a cubit wide, and a cubit and a half. Overlay it with pure gold and make a gold molding around it. And also make around it a rim, a handbreadth wide, and put a gold molding on the rim. Make 4 gold rings for the table and fasten them to the 4 corners where the 4 legs are. The rings are to be close to the rim to hold the poles. Did we already read this, or is this?
So,
Okay.
More rings and more bolts.
More poles and more rings, okay, to carry the table with them, and make its plates and dishes of pure gold, as well as its pitchers and bowls for pouring out of offerings. Put the bread of the presence on this table to be before me at all times. Where are we going to see the bread of the presence again? Do you remember? Well, yeah, so the bread of the presence, we'll read later on that the priests are able, this is one of the foods that the priests can eat. Because the priests can eat the offerings that are brought in, that's how they're sustained, because the priest class, the Levites, don't have land, they don't have part of the land. So the people have to support them, right? And part of the way to support them is they're able to consume these offerings that are brought. But so this bread of the presence, the showbread, is
What is that?
it's just bread, it's a loaf of bread. And but it's symbolic, it's just called the bread of the presence.
with or without yeast?
Is it made without yeast?
I don't know.
I don't know.
was wondering.
I don't know that it is, I think it's just regular bread. You could look that up too, but at any rate, King David, do you remember this? That King David, when he was undergoing his trials and he was with his men and they were starving, and they went in and they ate this bread of the presence. And yeah,
23:18, do not offer bread made with yeast when you sacrifice an animal.
okay, so look at bread of the presence and see, look up bread of the presence and see if it has any.
So Jesus is the one that mentions that when he's accused of taking the grain. Yeah, so that follows with that.
Yeah, that's right. So what he was saying about his, the Pharisees were giving him grief because the disciples had picked grain on the Sabbath, right? Because they were hungry.
Yeah.
And Jesus said, well, David even took the bread because he's like, what's more important, following the letter of the law or not dying? Basically, right? This is going to sustain you. Was the point that he's making?
So it says, the bread of presence, also called the showbread, was special bread always present on a table in the tabernacle and later in the temple. Leviticus 24:5-7 describes this bread. You shall take fine flour and bake 12 loaves from it. 2/10 of an ephah shall be in each loaf. You shall set them in 2 piles, 6 in a pile. And on the table of pure gold before the Lord. You shall put pure frankincense on each pile. They go with the bread as a it was made of fine flour, baked in 12 loaves, arranged in 2. Frankincense served as a memorial food. Bread could only be eaten by Aaron and his sons in holy place, set out 7 days.
So it doesn't say whether it has yeast or
Doesn't
not.
say anything about yeast.
But say you use it.
But probably was regular.
Yeah, I said that this showbread had leavening and it says no. So according to Josephus, the cakes were unleavened. So Josephus was the historian, the church historian. Okay,
And
yeah,
he foreshadows Jesus.
it does.
Bread.
The bread of life.
Now, is this the
He's
ark
always
that
there.
they take with them over the 40 years while they're traveling in the world?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's why it has that's why you put a pole through it so you can carry it.
But they give a description of, well, I don't want to say the size, but they talk about cubits.
Cubits, yeah,
We have to look up for the.
yeah. Look up what it was.
The Good News Bible says 45 inches long, 27 inches wide, 27 inches.
Okay, so a yard is 36 inches, so like about that.
It's about 4 feet.
Or whatever your wingspan is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if it's made of gold, it's gonna be heavy, right?
Oh, yeah. There's a case. I mean, hard. They mostly come from Australia and Africa.
So acacia wood is a dense hardwood, so that's gonna be heavy too. And he says it comes from Africa,
Australia.
so they probably be getting it from Africa.
Somebody asked me some trade. They didn't say it came from Egypt, but you know, Egypt.
Well, I think Egypt, yeah. Yeah, oh,
It says the Hebrews and Egyptians considered acacia trees to symbolize immortality, which is interesting.
immortality, okay, all right. So now we have another foreshadowing maybe. Andrew,
In addition to the practical, within the acacia wood would have been. God said, get pine tree, and they're like, what is that? In addition to that, it endures because something about the nature of the wood makes it so. Is that?
oh,
Maybe there's another reason.
yeah, Ron was saying it was real hard, dense wood, so maybe they can't get their little teeth in it or something. Abby,
Like say, I like the colors God puts into our view.
I do too. The purple, the scarlet and the blue
And gold.
and gold, yeah. Yeah. Well, let's talk about the lamps. Well, let's see, we're about done. Should we hit the lampstand next time too? Because the lampstand, there's a lot of symbolism in the lampstand here. So maybe we'll just hit that next time. Does that sound good? Sure. All right, well, thanks, everybody, I appreciate it. Man, I'm gonna tell Pastor Jonathan, when we get through like 4 or 5 chapters in 2 days. All right, go in peace and serve the Lord. Thank you. Bye, Marco. See you next week, Marco. No. Well, no, Wednesday. See you Wednesday, but not Thursday.
Yeah.